Well, there was a closed-door briefing yesterday in Washington, Jacob, with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Chairman of that committee, Bob Menendez, a Democrat, has been asking for closed-door briefing for quite some time to basically get caught up as to the status of whatever nuclear negotiations are left at this point. But more importantly, what's the Biden administration's plan B for, inevitably, Menendez says, when those talks just completely crumble to the ground? Well, senators from both sides of the aisle coming away from that closed-door briefing yesterday with not much more clarity than they had going in. The briefing given by the U.S. Special Envoy to Iran, Rob Malley, who's been leading those nuclear negotiations for quite some time. Brett McGurk, who is the White House's chief Middle East portfolio holder there, also briefed the senators within the room. Menendez basically saying, hey, the Biden administration has to admit at this point that these talks aren't moving forward. The only thing that's left to do at this point, two things. Number one, you can keep the door open just to say you kept it open so that the world can't say that the Americans were the ones to close the door. But what is the plan B at this point? Menendez has previously said that if the Biden administration can't articulate one and can't come up with one, well, it'll be up to him and the Senate and the rest of the Congress to come up with a plan B. And that's essentially how he left that meeting yesterday after speaking with reporters. Todd Young, a Republican member of that committee, came out of that meeting basically saying that there are no good options at this point, but it's very, very clear that negotiations aren't going anywhere. The only one in the room that said that the negotiations should continue and diplomacy must prevail is Chris Murphy. He is the leading senator on the Middle East portfolio out of that Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Traditionally has been a dove on this particular issue, but the other senators, at least those that spoke with the media coming out of that meeting yesterday, say there just doesn't appear to be a viable way forward. The Iranians are still insisting that the Biden administration remove the tag of a foreign terrorist organization from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Americans have said there's no way we're going to do that unless Tehran is willing to talk about non-nuclear deals as well within the confines of re-entering the JCPOA.
So, Mike, the option of more sanctions is a viable option for the Biden administration now?
It appears to be, and it never was not an option to begin with. The question has always been, how long is the Biden administration going to withhold imposing nuclear and more non-nuclear sanctions because they felt the negotiations could come to fruition, that something could be done in terms of re-entering the JCPOA. But the Biden admin has not been shy about saying it, and they reiterated in this meeting yesterday, according to at least two senators, that the restoration of sanctions are on the table and that they could be forthcoming if Tehran is not willing to bend on their demands.
Now, how all of that fits with the political outlook in the U.S., midterm elections and so forth?
You know, foreign policy generally has not really had much of an impact on midterms unless you're talking about an all-out war, and I don't think that the Biden admin is expecting that in terms of any fallout that might come from the breakdown of talks with Iran. So there's much more focus on domestic issues here in America. It's not to say that Biden is not looking for a foreign policy victory, but I don't think unless he can claim a victory in terms of a fruitful negotiation process, that he can really get anything out of this deal in terms of a political boost. It's only downhill, if anything, for Biden on the foreign policy front vis-a-vis Iran, which makes the upcoming trip to Israel and Saudi Arabia all the more important to try to develop that anti-Iran alliance within the region and try to make sure that Iran is kept within check in the Middle East and those problems don't drift back to Washington again.
Right. We'll definitely follow that. Mike Waghenheim in New York, thank you very much.